Hey, it's Anne, one half of the Flick Chicks. So we've been on a long hiatus, if you haven't noticed, and we will continue to be on a long hiatus. But special bonus thing, I guess bonus episode. You can tell I'm rusty. Ooh, we have a bonus episode because Shonda decided to sit in her lair and conjure up quite a phenomenon, and we need to talk about it, even though it's been out for a month. And that phenomenon is Queen Charlotte. And of course, I could not talk about Queen Charlotte without my Bridgerton babe, Dominique. Dom, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, folks. If you've watched the other or listened to the other episodes, you'll remember me as Dom with all the opinions about Anthony.
Yes.
And that journey from his sideburns
Exactly.
to true love. But I'm happy to be here again.
She is. Yes. So unfortunately, Mon couldn't be here with us, and neither could Alex. Alex is the other Bridgerton babe as well, who usually comes. But they couldn't be here. They are both missed, and they will be listening. They've told me that. So that's exciting. They will hear all of our opinions, probably disagree with a lot of them, but that's fine because you're not here.
We also have no one to stop us from talking.
That's the scary part. If you don't know, me and Dom talk up a storm. Like, it's actually scary. They should do scientific studies on us, but it's not good. It's not good.
Yeah.
But strap in, because it's gonna be fun. And because we talk a lot, we're just gonna jump right into it because, like, what are we gonna do wasting time? We're gonna be going through each character in Queen Charlotte. Not every single character. They might get jumbled up in other people's storylines, but the main characters. We're going to go in an order that I've predetermined to talk about all the characters, and then we'll have some fun questions by the end. And then we'll wrap up with, like, overall thoughts and just, like, some fun rankings and things like that. So are we ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, perfect. So Queen Charlotte was a spin-off series based on the Queen Charlotte character from the Bridgerton series. Did I say that right? The Bridgerton series.
Yeah.
And it follows the adventures of young Charlotte and young Lady Danbury, and flashes from the past to the present, which is also still the past. Like, you know what I mean? Present day Bridgerton. And we see how Charlotte, having been married off at 17 years old, how she's dealing with the politics and the antics that is the British monarchy. So, first person we're going to be talking about is Violet, actually. Violet / young Violet. We're going to wrap them up all together. So, I don't know, Dom, do you want to start us off? Like, what did you think about Violet / young Violet in this series / her role and her plot?
Yes, I can start. So I don't know if you remember, Anne, but a while back, like probably the first episode we did for Bridgerton season 1, I said I didn't like Violet.
Oh, yeah.
And I've changed my mind. I remember being like, I didn't know if I liked her. And then season 2, I was like, eh. And now I think I like her because I like the time jump between seeing her in the past and the future. I also thought she was, like, funny this season in a way she maybe wasn't before.
Right.
And maybe also because we didn't see her a lot in her older time jumps. I don't know. I'm still, it's a very complicated relationship I think I have with Violet.
Wow. Are you Anthony Bridgerton, maybe?
Maybe. I'm just, like, embodying everything he feels.
Exactly.
Because I love him. But no, I like Violet. I thought young Violet was, like, adorable, and it was really fascinating to see her relationship with Lord Ledger. Is it Lord Ledger?
Yeah, you're right. Her dad.
Yes. So I thought that was, like, very interesting to see. I didn't realize, like, the age difference between her and Lady Danbury. I think that was more of a shock as well. But I guess they never really insinuated what those ages were. But yeah, I thought older Violet was funny. I thought younger Violet was endearing. I have some theories where I think that the next potential spin-off, because Queen Charlotte was very successful, I believe the next spin-off will be about Violet.
Really?
And yes, I think there was an Easter egg, and if I'm not mistaken, I believe it's the lilac dress she wears in Queen Charlotte, because that seems to be a color that represents love, Daphne Ward in season 1, Kate in season 2, and also like other characters as they prepare for like this season.
Yeah.
Or being debuting. I believe that's like a theme of love for the show. So it's fascinating. That's my theory. But yeah, but no, overall, I do like Violet as a whole. And I think seeing her kind of jumping back and forth was really good for me to kind of care a bit more about the character and the Bridgerton storyline. Yeah.
That's good.
What about you?
So I've always liked Violet, actually, like unpopular opinion. I think a lot of people have the same opinion as you, as they have like complicated feelings with her, or they don't like her. But I liked her. I've always found her funny, actually. Like, I think she's really specifically the actress. I think the actress is so good at like her facial expressions and just like the subtlety. So I've always laughed at her. I just think the way that she carries herself, she's like the equivalent of like a Disney princess plopped into like a really grim world. Like, I get that Bridgerton is not that grim, but also Violet is like la 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 la, so it's kind of hilarious to me. Like, yes, it gets frustrating, especially when you're like when you address like serious topics, you're like, Violet, get it together. But I do find her like pretty hilarious, especially I just like to encompass her comedic style. I just think of like that scene where Lady Danbury, Queen Charlotte, and her are having like tea, like in the like present day Bridgerton, and then Queen Charlotte is like, you have a lot of children, and she's like, oh yeah, I do, and she's like, I have a lot of children, and then Violet is like, as your majesty decides. Like, I just think it's just like the tone she gives, 10 out of 10. I was surprised by young Violet's tenacity. I did not see it. It's not like it's not Violet. I actually can see the link, but I just like didn't picture it like that. I pictured her as kind of like a shy, quiet kid. That's what I really imagined for her, and I thought she would like have come out of her shell more as she aged, because I think that has a lot to do with the fact that she's super like demure, and like she had a lot of trouble even talking to Daphne about like less proper things. So I just imagined her as a very like shy. So to see her as pretty outspoken, she's still like very optimistic and like kind of like bubbly like she is now. So that's there, but that thread is there. But I was shocked to see how almost rebellious she was. Like, I kind of saw a lot of like Hyacinth / Eloise in her when she was young. Like, I really saw that, because I feel like Hyacinth has that curiosity that Violet was showing. Like, that's very Hyacinth. And then the whole like wanting to be smart, I think that's very Eloise. So I think that was really interesting to see that. And I don't know, it's fun. Obviously, in terms of like her usefulness to the story, she was clearly just there for like fan service, like for us to see Violet as a younger woman, because she didn't really do anything or have any significance to the plot. But I'm not mad at it. Like, I'm just like, yeah, that's fun to see.
Yeah, and that's why I think the next season is, or spin-off, will be about her, because why introduce her, you know?
I agree with you, but I don't think she's the next one. I feel like Lady D might be the next one.
You know what? She deserves it.
She does.
She
Which,
deserves
you know
it.
what? We'll just naturally transition to Lady D, because let's talk about how first, before we get into our thoughts about Lady Danbury's overall plot, talk about their relationship. So Violet and Lady Danbury's relationship. I guess I can start. And then first, their relationship, giving capital W weird, like, just the roller coaster we went on, like, it was just, and I think it was so jarring as well. Like, at the beginning I was like, oh, these girls are just like girlfriends, but in episode 5, when we find out what transpired between Mr. Lord Ledger and Lady D, and then we have their present selves or their older selves like bonding over the fact that their gardens have bloomed. It was just like too much. Like, I was like, no.
Yeah, it was a lot.
Like, not you talking about like your libido, and then you know, and then in the past we're seeing who cured your libido, like who awakened your libido. So that was a lot for me. So I have more thoughts about that, but just in terms of their relationship, I was like, oh, this is weird. This is weird. But I'm intrigued to see how they're going to address it in season 3, because there's no way they're done with that part of it. Like, I think especially with Violet wanting to find a new partner, I think that's definitely going to be something that they explore in season 3, and so on, like so forth in the series. And I don't see Lady Danbury being absent from that journey. Like, I feel like she's going to give Wing Woman energy as well. So I think they're probably going to, I don't know, talk about it kind of. I don't know.
They should. This is like some reality show stuff. Like, it's great.
They should, but how do you talk about that, Dom? Like,
you're right. Like, how do you say, I know you and my dad?
I know you know.
Anyway.
I know you know. Oh my goodness. Yeah, go on.
Spoiler for those who haven't seen it.
Oh.
Oh yeah, everything's a spoiler.
Yeah, you played yourself. I don't know why you clicked on this podcast, but go on.
And even to just compliment what you're saying, I think you're right. Lady Danbury and Lady Bridgerton, Violet, their relationship is weird now.
Yeah.
I think we saw some complications between them. You know, we saw them come together with like the matchmaking, but then kind of like opposing each other in season 2 a bit. So like that complication of, I think, women in society and like where they fit. But they're these two matriarchal figures that have developed a friendship over like 2 seasons, right? So to put us in a weird place in season 3 where, hey, by the way, your dad and I, you know, we hooked up. Not that, so like, it's so weird. But you know what? It's classic Shonda. Okay,
yeah,
to just throw that on us.
Classic
I just
Shonda
want to
mess.
say,
Absolutely.
like, I shouldn't have even been surprised, but I was.
Nope.
So I should have seen it coming. But also, you know, I also just figured maybe Adolphus and Lady Danbury was gonna, like, something was gonna start up with them. I don't know. Like,
really,
I had
thought so.
I thought so, but
wow.
You know,
okay.
I shipped the wrong people. Anyway, yeah, sorry.
You often do. That is true. That is a a trait of yours.
Yeah.
Let's get into Lady Danbury's storyline.
Okay.
So Dom, what did you think? I'm asking. You can tell I already know what she thinks. What did you think of Lady Danbury's storyline in this show?
She deserved. She deserved way better. She, like, if you think about the character of Lady Danbury, like in the actual Bridgerton series, and then we think of her in the spinoff, like, she's a strong character. She talks greatly about a love she once had, and you assume it might have been Lord Danbury,
right?
But it was not.
Nope.
And then all of a sudden we find out it's this, like, and no offense to the actor, this kind of grotesque man. And it's like such an uncomfortable...
It's not no offense to the actor, because the actor had insane prosthetics put on him. So he does not look like that at all. So it's not even,
It's like a slap in the face for everyone, really. But like, it's the fact that, like, they gave her such, like, a horribly disturbing, like, love. And I wouldn't even call it a love, like
a husband.
A husband? Yeah, like, just like a disturbing kind of storyline, which I know they probably wanted for comedic effect, but I didn't find it funny, and I don't even know if it was supposed to be taken as comedic. I just like it was just like so like strange, and I felt bad for her, really. Yeah. And every time she would like speak with like the maid of the house,
Coral,
after every like unfortunate scene we had to like endure with this man. I felt bad for her. Like, she's so wildly unhappy, and like she was like given away at such a young age, which I know was a part of like the history that they're trying to like show us of like that impact, but like it was just not very good. So, but I did like Lady Danbury. I felt bad for her. I think the show did her dirty, but I did like her relationship with Queen Charlotte. Like, it was actually really nice to see it start. And we know Lady Danbury is a bit more manipulative than, you know, like kind of like twisting things, and, you know, she does it out of preservation for herself, which I get.
She's kind of a
like,
puppeteer as well.
Look at the hand she was dealt. Like, I don't blame her. You know, it's kind of like some survival stuff in society, but I do like Lady Danbury. I think she's smart. I just think she was dealt a bad hand, and I think the show didn't give her the right, like, that. I don't think they gave her the right storyline for her young self.
You will pay for your crimes. Shonda Land, you will pay for your crimes. You will pay for your crimes. I'm gonna be even a little harsher than you are.
Okay.
Full disclosure, I disliked like 99% of her storyline. Okay.
Okay, yeah.
I
Agreed.
agree with you that my favorite parts of the show, like in the entire show, was Lady Danbury and Charlotte's thing. Like the interactions with Lady Danbury and Charlotte were funny, were heartwarming. Like it hit all the beats. Like, you know, they had all, you know, when she was giving sex ed, hilarious, laughing, cackling. When they were like talking about, you know, when Charlotte's really down bad and they're talking about how like men often don't, you know, consider their desires and they have to like, you know, really make space for their own desires in this society. I thought that was peak friendship. I also like the fact that Lady Danbury had to like reveal like, hey, I actually haven't been your friend. I've been like two-timing you, kind of. Not even fully, because, you know, she's kind of lying to Princess Augusta, but still, she's like, I haven't been considering you, which is true. Like, I think we'll talk more about this when we get to Charlotte, but I think the show, or not the show, people really forget how isolated and like siloed they made Charlotte. Like, I think that's underrated, I guess. I don't know how to say that, but like people don't really consider how isolated she was. And Lady Danbury really was her only like full truthful contact, and even she wasn't being 1,000% truthful, you know? So it's I think that was really good to see at least one person in her life, aside from who we'll talk about later, really be 100%, you know, truthful to her. I think having that moment as well to see that, I don't know, their friendship just like really had an arc. I was a little worried that it wasn't going to. Going through the show, I was worried that they were just going to be like, oh yeah, like they're friends because they are the only black women in their society, in their situation, which does happen. Like, that's not unrealistic at all. And I do think that's why they gravitated towards each other. But for them to like really establish a true friendship, that was really well done. Now, sorry, back to the roasting.
Of course.
I found the on-screen assaults absolutely grotesque. That's what they are. Yeah. They're just fully assaults, and they're grotesque, and they were disturbing, and they weren't handled properly. I think that's the biggest thing. Having assault on screen is not unheard of. Like, TV shows do that. But the tone that was given to those scenes was, like you said, like played for laughs almost, comedic, which was like not... If you wanted to play for laughs / be comedic, you could have had the scenes where they're filling up the bath and it's like, they're like, ugh, like gross, like give me another bath. That's like kind of dark comedy, but showing us just takes us out of the funny scene, because you're literally showing us like, I don't know how else to explain that. Like, I don't feel like this needs to be explained. I think it's very obvious. It's just wild. It's just, I don't understand. I don't get it. Basically, the tone made it seem like they were playing up for laughs, and I wasn't laughing. Nobody was laughing.
No one was laughing.
No. But yes, like you said, the actress though did a really good job. Arsema Thomas, shout out to you. 10 out of 10.
Yes,
so she did the best she could with like what was given to her. I don't think that's not a talk to her at all. I'm saying from a narrative standpoint, I didn't really appreciate some of the choices that were made. Any man she was around, I wasn't into it. In the show, that's fair. Any guy she was with, I wasn't into it. At this point, either Lady Danbury is a liar in the future, or the writers are confused, because she said, I have been loved and I have loved. Who loved her? Can you tell me, John?
Good question.
Who loved her?
You're right. That's a good question.
Because if you're trying to convince me that Lord Ledger loved her, you have another thing coming for you. Are you kidding me?
No. God, no.
I'm not into Lord Ledger at all. I don't. Zaddy Ledger's not working for me. First, aside from him like not being my type, so sorry. No, nothing against the actor.
Yeah, fair.
It's just not my type. I think he was a little too old for that. Like, I wanted her to get boned by a smoking hot man. That's what I wanted. If we were going to go down the sexual awakening route, I wanted peak, like, I don't know. Anyways, but I also think if we take that aside, like the looks aside, if you just look at what it is for what it is, he took advantage of a grieving, confused young woman, if you really think about it.
Yeah.
What And if you think for 1 second that this is the first time that he's cheated on Miss Ledger, you're naive. You think you think Lady Danbury is the first time that this man has stepped out of his marriage?
No way.
No. And you saw the way he dumped her after one interaction. That's giving he's done it many times before.
Oh yeah. He's
brought
like the
his
OG like rake.
OG rake. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
It runs in the family. And he was the most disturbing. He said married and a rake, and he uses his daughter to break up with his mistresses.
Yeah.
I feel like Violet, low-key, if they're not going to go down this route, but if real life Violet, young Violet, was interviewed, she'd be like, yeah, we go on walks with like a lot of women, and they're always upset when we leave.
Yeah.
Because that was disturbing. Adolphus, he's very handsome. He's very good to look at. So I did enjoy that for the time being. They're a good looking couple, but you introduced him like literally in the second half of episode 6, like them as a couple. So there's just like no way that I was going to be convinced. I'm just,
fair.
I feel like, yes, they were trying to show us why Lady D would choose to be alone. But I feel like that was not actually what they accomplished. Because I keep rambling and I'll let you talk, I promise.
It's okay.
They kept in episode 6, that's what disturbed me the most. They kept insinuating that she couldn't be with Adolphus because she was still hung up on Ledger. And I didn't like that. Because it's like, that's not women empowerment. Women empowerment to me would have been she got her nut, sorry. And then she's like moving on to climb up the ladder to get with a prince. But then she realizes, you know what? Even a prince isn't good enough for me to be married. Like, that's peak, like Lady D, bad ass stuff. But instead you gave us simpering over your best friend's daddy. No, I didn't like that way.
No, that's fair. I think sorry, we're on Adolphus, right? Like, are we jumping to him?
Yeah,
okay. Yeah, I didn't mind him. I feel like he was kind of just there. You know, he's like, I guess he wants the best for his sister,
right?
But also
as much as he can.
As much as he can. I think he's also like a little bit helpless. There's only so much that he actually can do,
right?
And I don't think he's as helpful to Charlotte as she wants him to be.
Correct.
So I do think it's actually quite interesting, and then it ends up making her frustrated and annoyed with him, and like kind of like, so I could see like that this Bridgerton did this, and now Queen Charlotte does this, like that turmoil you have with one sibling,
right?
You know, like some complications.
So
I'll say that
Anthony
about
and Daphne, right?
Exactly. So I think that's interesting. With Adolphus and Lady Danbury, the reason I shipped them, and I mentioned at the start, was that they seem like two people who care about Charlotte enough, but are a little bit, or need to learn to play the game. And it seemed like Lady Danbury does it better. But then also, you know, she's like learning as a courtier, like what that looks like. So that's why I thought it made sense, like these two people who would come together. But you're right, they introduced it way too late. And I think by the time we got to episode 6 and she wants to be alone, and you're right, like it could even be like she's just not that into you, man. Like maybe she just doesn't want to be with you. Or maybe she sees like how royalty has like affected her friend.
Right. And like, and we all know she doesn't want to have more children. Like that I totally got as well from their vibe too.
Right. So I would say, like, in terms of Adolphus, I think I'm glad he was in the spinoff. Like, he was great in the show.
Yes.
When he needed to be. He provided some really good, like, plot and parts to the story. But I wouldn't say overall, like, you know, he was there. Like, I wouldn't say he was like, but he was a very, very attractive man to grace our screen. But I do think, like, not always the most helpful for Charlotte.
No, he was not.
When she needed him. So.
But I think he was like a good subtle character in that way as well, because it's like, it does show how like lonely she really is. Like, even with a family member visiting, she doesn't feel like she's safe with him either, which I think is a good, like, I guess, thing to explore as well. So, but what do you think about Lord Ledger? You didn't.
Oh God, what? These crusty men on this show. I'm glad,
old mans.
I'm glad you didn't put Lord Danbury as like a character we're evaluating today, because I think I would have like, it's immediately no. but also Lord Ledger, immediately no.
Immediately
like,
no.
As you mentioned, he is a total rake and has definitely cheated on his wife many times, if that was not implied for the viewers at home.
Yeah.
There's no way that was his first time. It was so like as soon as he got to her door, like he was just like charming her, like all over the place.
The way he was looking at her at the funeral, like I was like, sir, the body's not even cold.
No, the man's a hunter. It's scary. It was scary.
Scary. I was like scared because she was like, yo, why is he you're
just like me
in public? Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Oh my Lord.
And also his wife sucked, right?
Yeah, she was kind of the worst.
Yeah, she was the worst. She was a raging racist. But did you notice that that was a cheap trick? They definitely made her terrible so that we wouldn't feel bad for her. That's what they tried to do. Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, it's like classic, like, so we don't hate the man storytelling in these in any kind of romance.
Right.
When a man cheats, it's like, oh, my girlfriend, my wife, she's the worst, I'm gonna leave her. Yeah, like Lady Danbury was played hard.
She was.
But also,
because could you imagine if that came out, like what happened?
Yeah.
You think Lord Ledger's going to stand up for her, or is he going to throw her under the bus?
No, absolutely not. As a white man in society,
hello,
he would get away with
everything,
with and probably just be like, that wasn't me, or I didn't do that. And then everyone's like, oh, Lady Danbury's a liar, which...
And I kept giving him the bombastic side eye because you know why? Mm-hmm. I don't know why we were supposed to feel bad for him because he had a terrible wife.
I don't.
Because
I don't.
You know what I also realized back in the day? This is a patriarchy. Okay?
Yes.
So if your wife is going on a racist tirade, do you know what you can do? Tell her to stop talking. Do you realize that you actually have that power? Like in this society, you have infinite power. So this whole my wife's a racist, I'm just gonna wink at my daughter.
It's so bad. It's so bad.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
No, you know what's so funny? And also, you're right. Also, I want to say, Anne and I are in our like agreeing with each other era.
Yeah.
Usually we do not agree on anything when it comes to shows. But I think Bridgerton has been, it's been making us mad with some stuff. Like, so I think we're coming together. The show's brought us together, really.
Yes, it has.
But you're so right. I think what they try to do is really show us like how strong a matriarch is in Bridgerton and then in Queen Charlotte. Mm-hmm. But I felt that it tries to make it seem like, the women are calling all the shots and doing all the planning and all the secrets and all that stuff. And I'm like, no, they're playing a game that the patriarchy designed, and they're just trying to beat them at their game, or they're trying to work their way in, right? So yeah, I agree with you. I didn't feel bad for Lord Ledger. Yes, his wife was awful, mm-hmm. But at the same time, like he played Lady Danbury for a fool. Yep. And made it seem like he loved her, cared for her. And you're right. I really hope if she has a spinoff, or next season, if Lady Danbury and Violet address this like situation with her father, mm-hmm. I really hope that's not the person she loved and who thought loved her,
right?
Because that was not evident at all. I didn't see love there. I saw hookups, some lust, and kind of like that was it. And the fact that she's like remained close to Violet all these years, or like they've developed this friendship, is fascinating to me. I can't have no idea. She cares about her, but I would be like,
this is the part where I like, maybe I'm not seeing it that way actually. I think mm-hmm. it wasn't as clear to us, but I think it's clearer now that mm-hmm. Violet and Lady D didn't really become friends until season 1 of Bridgerton, when they were both trying to set up Simon and Daphne.
Right.
So I think we just assumed because they're cordial that they were like friends, but I didn't realize that actually their friendship didn't really like start like them being close until that whole setup, and then now their families are joined, so they're like hanging out. Like that's the part that made them close. But I think that I get what you're saying. Like I did at first, I was like, oh, they've been friends for this long. Like that's so weird. Like why did she go like befriend her? Right. Because she's much younger than her. So I was like, that means that you went to seek her out. But I think I really do think that they only started becoming besties on some season 1 stuff.
Season 1.
Right. And I think that's why later in season 5, when she's like, oh, you opened up to me, like, and I'm really happy that you did, like, because that's not the kind of stuff they usually talk about, because they're not friends like that. Like, if you remember, Simon's mom was Lady Danbury's best friend, and I'm guessing the queen would be her other friend. Like, that's about it.
Right.
Really. So I think their friendship did start a little later, but it's still weird. It's
a little strange.
Still
Keeping an eye on her.
Yep.
After all these years.
Oh my goodness. Strange. I'm sure we'll talk more about Lady D when we continue to get to the bigger characters, but let us move on to Brimsley.
Yeah, happily. So I like Brimsley. Like, he seems like he cares about Queen Charlotte, but much like Adolphus, can't do shit. You know what I mean? Like, so, like, he's kind of useless as well.
Oh, no.
Why are all the men useless?
Oh, my goodness. This is where we're going to disagree big time, actually. Do you see this?
Okay. Yeah, I'm actually excited because so, okay, it's funny. So let's jump to kind of like how we know Brimsley as an adult. Whoop.
Yeah.
See, he's so unmemorable. No, I'm kidding. No, so if we jump forward, it seems like it's just Queen Charlotte calls the shots, right? And he guys just does what he's told, right? And then you see like kind of like how in the flashback when he kind of follows around and he's like, I can't leave you alone, things like that.
Right.
While I could see that he cares about Queen Charlotte, and I think grows to care about King George as well, because you know, he's like helping there.
Right.
I do also think that, I don't know, I thought it was interesting to see how their relationship seemed so cold as adults when there was sort of like a hint of warmth, like them trying to have some kind of relationship. I don't know if I was reading too into that, but it just seemed so cold as an adult. Like, but also Queen Charlotte does get colder and a little bit more edgier as an adult anyway, which is wild to me how different. It's, you know what's funny? I don't know if you feel this way, Anne. It's like kind of a side note, but do you find it interesting when you see flash forwards and people are a bit more, they're like colder and edgier, but when they're young, they're like so joyful and like showing love. I find that so weird in shows like this because their adult self is who we're supposed to like or try to like on the show. So it's like a weird thing. But again, is it classic Shonda? I don't know, because I don't know how many characters she's done like this before. But that's why I like Queen Charlotte so much, which we'll get to. But yeah, I thought Brimsley was, you know, I think he was a good person to be around, like as a kind of like her, I don't know what his official title was, but like, I guess not a support, but she's like the
Queen's man. He's the Queen's man.
Yeah, the Queen's man. I guess like he was the right person, but also I wish maybe he had more like advice for her. I almost wish he was like an older gentleman and gave her more advice, or like, you know what I mean, like
on some of the Parent Trap stuff.
Yeah, or like a father figure or an uncle figure. I wish she had something like that. And it doesn't have to be a man, but like I think because she had Lady Danbury as her friend, it would have been nice to have somebody care for her the way her brother tried to but couldn't. But he was in the palace every day. So maybe that's where my complicated views on Brimsley is. But what about you? You seem to think it's differently.
I do 100%. I think Brimsley is the MVP.
Oh, really?
Of this season. Gosh. Yes. Without him, the monarchy would have collapsed. George and Charlotte wouldn't be together if Brimsley was not Brimsley. I understand what you're saying about like a more authoritative figure, blah, blah, blah. But if we think about what the society was like at the time, a more authoritative, a more authoritative, like higher up person would not have let Charlotte breathe. Okay, because they would have had a lot of like very harsh traditional values. They might have even been on some racism like Princess Augusta. So I feel like younger Brimsley being young as he was is actually a good thing, because I think they're both like discovering the monarchy together and just how cray everybody in the monarchy is. Okay. That's that. I think it was kind of hilarious but also cruel that the relationship that Brimsley has with Reynolds was completely reliant on the fact that George and Charlotte get their stuff together, because those guys literally could not see each other if George and Charlotte were not together. So it was like extra incentive. It's kind of tragically hilarious for him to like want to parent trap them essentially, because he's like, yo, I'm trying to be with my mans, trying to be with my boyfriend, and you two are messing it up. I think he single-handedly kept Charlotte sane, kept Charlotte and George together, all that stuff. Because I not me to revise the entire history, but I'm gonna do it. I think when he's like, oh, Charlotte, I can't leave you alone, that was a lie at the beginning of the episode, because there are a bunch of other scenes where she says wait here, or she says don't follow me, and I think he followed her because he knew she wasn't feeling all of that, because she was like, I don't want you to be here, and he's like, yeah, I hope you'll get used to me. I think he could tell that her emotions were emoting, and he wanted to be there because he was like, you're alone, nobody knows you here, I need to be by your side. Because later on, when other things happen, he's pretty like, oh, I'll just be outside the door, or he's like very you know, he respects and listens to her. So I feel like Brimsley, to me, read Charlotte's emotions like no one else did. Like he was on some, as soon as he's like, he went to Reynolds and he's like, can you tell the king to provide her a gesture? And he was the one who suggested that. And then Reynolds then blah, blah, blah. And then she got the dog. She didn't like it. But before she saw the dog, you saw how happy she was. She was like, oh my gosh, he gave me a little note. See, Brimsley knows what he's talking about. Brimsley's got it. Brimsley is angry with her. Brimsley is sad with her. Brimsley is like her guardian angel. I really think he was the MVP. I think he was working overtime. Like, he wanted employee of the month, okay? And he never got it, which is what you basically said. Because when you go to the future, I get what you're saying about like, these are the characters we're supposed to like, because I do feel like I have a newfound empathy and like respect for Charlotte, of course. However, at the same time, there's a lot of, I feel like this show showed a lot of extra flaws that I didn't even know we could see in her. Specifically when she asked Brimsley, do you have any family? I was like, girl, it's been like, what, 50 years? And you haven't asked him one time? Like, or have you never married? Has he taken a day off? Where would he go to get, like, I was like, girl, like, this cannot be real that you're asking him this for the first time in that scene. But I think she is a complex character, and we will talk about that obviously later as well. So I think that's what they were trying to go for, but I was just like, man, like Brimsley is her best friend, you know, whether she likes it or not. He is. I suppose. Yeah, I guess so. And I'm like, this is how you treat your best friend? Like, or your family? We could say Brimsley's definitely her family, like, for sure. So I'm like, that's fair. But she doesn't treat her family very well, which we will also talk about later. Yeah, it's true. Yeah. Honestly, no, I like what you're saying about Brimsley. I think you're highlighting the things that maybe I overlooked with him. Because even when he was like, ooh, Reynolds, I painted the wall. We can get like a shield for the garden. Like, you just need to get George back here because Her Majesty is in a state I've never seen before. He's the only man who saw the Depression from miles away. Yeah. Adolphus was there sitting at the table and going, la, 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 let me eat some steak. Are you? Oh, my goodness.
I'm telling you. Okay, so maybe not all the men were useless.
No.
On this show. No. No. I like what you're saying about Brimsley. And you're right. Like, whether she sees him as her best friend or not, he was, like, her guardian some way. Yes. And, like, I think genuinely cared about her happiness. He does. So,
he's a very good worker. He's a very hard worker.
Yeah, employee of the month for sure. Of the year.
In season 4, by season 4, like, I'm hoping Bridgerton goes on past season 4. But by season 4, if Charlotte doesn't do something really sweet for Brimsley, like, I need that. I need it for complete. Please. Yeah, like, it's over for us. I just need it to happen because I need the recognition. I need that, and I will burst into tears because I want it. So just give it to me. That's what I want. I just want some recognition, like her being like, you know, it's obviously not going to make up for anything because man was basically indentured servitude. But still, I would like some recognition of, like, you know, you're my closest ally. Let's say that. Anyways, but like, let's go on to as well the next character, which is Reynolds.
Great. Great. I don't know why, like, every character we've mentioned, I'm always like, oh. Whenever it's like one of the male characters.
You're like, oh.
Okay, so Reynolds. Okay, kind of the epitome of a good servant, the way we kind of talk about Brimsley. Like, he's like loyal. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't even know should I say to a fault? Maybe to a fault to George.
Yes, he is.
And, you know, he's devoted to his lineage and like just devoted to King George in itself. And I think that assisting him to keep his illness a secret from the other servants and from Queen Charlotte is like, that's a lot.
Yeah.
But it's the fact that he was always like kind of sometimes putting Brimsley down or like kind of being the pessimistic one.
Yeah.
When in fact he's like watching his like the boss man struggling with his like madness, like going ill. And so with Reynolds, I would say, like you said, if we're going to compare who is the better like guardian or like helper, it would be Brimsley. I think you're very much right. Yeah. I think Reynolds, I don't know, I feel like Brimsley kind of could have deserved a little bit better than Reynolds. I actually wonder if in the future, like if he is alive and well, I don't know if the show like led to that. I can't remember if it did or implied it. But do you remember that scene where he's dancing alone? It's like, it looks like he's dancing with Reynolds, and then you just see the older Brimsley dancing alone.
I just literally stabbed in the heart 3 times.
I couldn't tell if that was like our clue that he dies, or if that was just like they're just not together. So I'm just like curious.
This is where we're going into conspiracy theories and stuff like that.
Or whatever.
I thought like that scene alone, like the "I will always love you" scene, the dancing. It was giving death. Like that implied death. However, one thing that makes me go, not so sure, is the scene between Brimsley and Charlotte, like in like when they're older versions, where he goes like, where she's like have you ever had a family or whatever, and he goes like, who would be free to spend with me? Everyone here serves the king, he said. And that's right after she said like, because she's like, oh, he's like, everyone serves the king, like so do you, that's not a flaw, but like you've prioritized George. And she's like, that's not true, you care for me. And he said, yeah, I will till my last days. And but then he makes the point to say, who would have a lifetime with me? This is after she's already said, you care for me. Everybody here serves the king. So that's giving to me, that heavily implies that Reynolds, he's talking about Reynolds, like who would stay with me, who would have a lifetime with me, because everyone here serves the king. So that gives me that there was a time in their relationship where they had to choose their jobs over each other, which for sure. And I think we've seen that Reynolds has chosen his job multiple times over Brimsley. And whether that be right or wrong or whatever that is, that's not really the point. It's just like he did choose George over Brimsley. So I feel like that continued to happen. I don't see how that would not be something that would happen in a relationship. So I think Reynolds could have died, but I kind of feel like even before he died, they were a little bit estranged. Like their couple they weren't giving couple goals near the end of their lives is what I'm... Because if you think about it, George got worse and worse, right? Yeah. And Reynolds would probably have to be with him even more. Yeah. And just I think I think you're right. I think, I think the romantics in us are kind of like, you choose each other, not the crown. But these are 2 men who are dedicated to serving the crown. Yeah. In their own rights. And so while it was like really great to see kind of like I liked their story. Yeah, their love story was beautiful. Yeah, their love story was fun and like really important. But also I think it just goes to show like duty comes before love. I think Queen Charlotte and King George has shown us that too. Yeah. I think older Queen Charlotte has shown us that the most. Well. Yeah. Is that everything we saw in the spinoff was like lovely. And I love Charlotte and George. But I think when you think of the future, like how mad he gets and like how worried she is about him being in the public and acting the way he does, I think it just goes to show duty did eventually come first in some ways, even though she loves him. So I think I think you're right. I think they can't ultimately be together when they're in the positions that they are, and I think that's the sacrifice they make for the other people they love, which is Reynolds loves George and Brimsley loves Charlotte. So yeah
They're picking a different love over. So wow, we got really deep with them. Was this show about them?
Oh, whoa. No, that was really good, Dom. Like, by the way, clap, clap, clap. That was deep. That was giving essay, like, intro. Jeez.
Wow, okay.
Jeez. There was a thesis there. No, I actually agree. I think this show really has an emphasis on sacrifice and unconditional love and ultimate devotion. Like, wherever that is, like, devoted to power, devoted to a person, devoted to your job. Like, I think each person in the show has ultimate devotion to something, and it does kind of pain them in other areas in their life. Like, I would say Lady Danbury, for example, has ultimate devotion to her survival. And I think that's, like, it works out really well for, like, the Ton, because she's, like, honestly the reason that, you know, there's equality amongst the races, I guess, in their society. But they also showed us how she, like, really neglected her kids. Like, she did not know them. And even from the future, where she mentioned, like, oh, they did me the honor of moving away, it just shows that she didn't really make an effort to know her children or love them. Like, she resents them fully, and I can see why, given her husband. But even after his death, she wasn't able to really like, get that. And I feel like she's devoted to her own survival, and her own survival includes, like, burying that trauma, you know? Like, she's just like, it's about my survival and keeping myself from having the least amount of pain possible. And I think that's a lot of people's devotion. And I think we're also going to go into this next character, who was, I would say, devoted to both her son, but power a little more. Like, well, I'll just I guess I'll just talk about it. Our next character is Princess Augusta, Dowager Princess Augusta. Girl, she honestly, woo, one of the most complex characters on the show, which I admire. Like, that's one of the best things about the show, is everyone's complex. Like, nobody is a good character through and through. I wouldn't say, like, anybody's pure and simple like that. She makes hers a lot more obvious than other characters. She don't care about nobody but her and her son. And even her son, she cares about him in a very structural way. She cares, like, her in her mind, I believe she loves George. I do believe she really loves her son. But I think she's very, through trauma and just, like, you know, generational trauma, just messed up. She's very misguided. As in, she will destroy everything in her path to make sure that her son is taken care of, and her way of taking care of him is making sure he stays king. Whether that be destroying his own self-esteem, like, she don't really care about that either. Like, she's like, you're mad, and you need to keep that under control and keep it under wraps so that we don't look bad. And I understand why she does that, because it is this, in this society, there is no, like she said, there is no room for weakness. There is only power. So she says it. Exactly. And she's not wrong, but she doesn't, like, realize how terrible that is for George. Like, she's obviously a trigger to George. It's so obvious. Every time she walks in a room, this man's going into an episode trauma. So, but she was doing what she could. Like, I think especially by the end, you realize, and I'm about to go in on her, by the way. This is the best stuff I'm about to say about her right now.
I'm excited.
She did the best. You could see she was trying her best, because at the end at the end of the show, she concedes to Charlotte, and she goes, like, you know what, you make him happy, like, you got this thing. And I think why she does that is because she always believed that her way of doing things was the only way to do things. Like, the only way to get George to perform is to keep getting him to be experimented on these doctors, to keep him like isolated, and I'm the one making choices for him, and just, like, keep him hidden away until he can like fix up, presumably. But then she sees, like, how Charlotte uses a different method, which is, like, a very caring, very understanding, an accommodating method. Like, Charlotte's always meeting George where he's at. And she realizes that that's actually the way things are supposed to be, and that's like the proper way, and that Charlotte is not some evil harlot who's trying to take over the crown. She's literally in love with your son, you dimwit. Anyways, so I think that showed to me completely like where her motivation was, and however misguided her methods were, that's what her goal was. Now. Yes. The destruction that she did to get there, I will not forget. The micro and macro aggressions that she was giving Charlotte, insane. Jail. She was like, you are lucky to be here. You're lucky to even breathe in my presence. I don't care if I have to keep you in the dark. I don't care if I have to keep you tortured. I don't care if you have to be pregnant and all alone. You're going to fulfill your... She was like, Charlotte is a vessel, and that's it. That's the way she saw her. Nothing else. And that was disturbing. But like not like disturbing in a bad way. I just mean like just like not like just disturbing. It's disturbing like to see how much she could not give a damn about Charlotte's well-being. And I think she's the biggest reason why Charlotte stayed down for so long, and wasn't assuming her power, because she did a number on her as well. She also did a number on Lady Danbury, but I feel like with Lady Danbury there was more of a truthfulness there. It was clear like they knew, you're my foe, you're my enemy, and here's why I'm treating you this way, and it's very clear. Like I think it's actually easier to have your enemy in front of you and there are clear boundaries, versus Augusta was like, you know, like smiling in Charlotte's face while stabbing her slowly, like that. So I think that was, especially Charlotte's so young, like I feel like people forget that as well. 17 to be like anyways, I'm done with my long ramble about Princess Augusta. You may.
No, it's okay. And I agree with everything you said. It's like complicated,
right,
but also not so complicated. She's racist. Yes, she is like hardcore racist.
Yes,
and then she's also a princess, and she is the mother of she's the mother of a king, and her son needs help, and she doesn't actually know how to help.
Right.
All she cares about is keeping his like lineage alive. Right. So everything you're saying about Charlotte being seen as a vessel, which is just like awful, especially knowing like she was probably seen as a vessel herself as well, or whatever. But I don't want to like feel too bad for Augusta because I don't really, I feel bad for George, but no, I think I agree with everything you say. I think like the part of her like trying to help her son, and like the idea that yes, I do think she loves her son, but I think she also loves their position more. And like what happens when they lose all of that if he can't perform and do what he needs to do, which is provide an heir and rule the country. I think that's like a lot of pressure. And it's funny too, because like, a part of me is like, do you feel bad for royalty? Like that kind of concept of do I? And then you're sort of see like this like insane pressure that is put on some folks, and then the way they act and behave, and you're like, you are a product of the circumstance that you grew up in, and you are providing that circumstance, and then all the trauma that's provided to or who is after you. And so I think that's tough. That's why I think like when Charlotte like comes in and shakes things up, it's amazing. But I do think that Princess Augusta is somebody, and what's so funny? I think Michelle Fairley, she was the actress who played Princess Augusta. Oh my gosh. And she like, for a whole on set to Shondaland, she does not see her character as like a villain. And I was like, and I was like, that's so fascinating, because like I do see her as a villain, but I think like kind of that concept of hell is other people. I don't think there's one set villain on this show. No, there's, like,
and I think it's especially if you're gonna be playing that character, you shouldn't see them as just a villain straight up, unless like especially she's not like, there are characters who are actually written to be just villains, and like that's different. Yeah, for sure. But she's not written to be a villain. She's written to be like an obstacle and in Charlotte's way. Yeah. And she's a real character, and I think like that's like what is it, multifaceted character for sure. So I think it's good to see that, like as an actress you want to have that, but no, she's bad. She bad.
And like that quote, it's like the road to hell is like paved with good intentions.
Yes.
I think, it's like basically her.
Right.
She's
basically, she personifies that for sure.
Yeah, for sure. So like, it's like I agree with you completely. Like, you don't have to see your character as a villain if that's not implied, like you are the villain of the show. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think Bridgerton or Queen Charlotte has like a set villain. No. I think the villain is the fact of like how people like play the game, right? But yeah, I think overall, like, Princess Augusta is complex, but I think also like we see right through her as well, with like just like the blatant like prejudices that she has towards people of color on the show, especially towards Charlotte, who is like married to our son. And so I wonder, like, I want to know. I wish the show like would show us more like flash forwards of like the way that haunts Queen Charlotte. In some way, like, because she's become so hardened, much like Princess Augusta. Yeah, she's
kind of personified her quite a lot. Yeah,
she's become the woman she probably dislikes. I won't say hates, but like dislikes.
Yes, so, she has.
You know, I wonder if that's something like we'll see. I don't know if it'll be brought up. Maybe it's just for us maybe that's our job is to unpack that for them. But she's kind of become that.
Yeah. No, she has, especially when it comes to like the baby race, which we'll probably talk about when we get to her section. I feel like that's very much Augusta, like prioritizing something over and having good intentions behind it as well. Because if you think about it, Princess Augusta's intentions are good, like at the beginning. Like, she wants to make sure her son doesn't get, you know, his head chopped off because he's declared insane and he loses all his power and all that stuff. So at that level, that is good, or not, maybe not good, but I guess that is an understandable intention. Just like how Charlotte's intention is to continue George's line because, like, as a devotion to him. But then all the action that happens after that, that's where both ladies are doing some damage. Okay. Now.
All right.
Moving on to our main characters.
I'm so excited.
We have George. Sorry for giggling. I swear I'm a classy lady. Oh my gosh. Do you want to know what
for just anyone?
I don't. Do you want to see what my notes say, Dom?
I would love that.
It says, I only have two bullet points. It says, my soft Kang and my Georgie baby girl.
Do you want to know what mine says? What? That's amazing. Mine says, hot. Just like 3. I'm good with buttons. And I wrote baby boy. So baby boy.
I'm dead. We have the same thing. So basically we wrote the same stuff. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yep. Yeah. Oof, I didn't write my farmer, which would have gone with your hot.
I should have.
Yeah.
Add that to the notes.
Good. Oh, that's so good.
We're blushing.
Not baby boy, baby girl.
Sweet prince.
Sweet prince. I love him. So how do you feel about George? You hate him?
I hate him.
Yeah, I hate him so much.
I actually hate him so much. No. Okay. Oh my gosh. You know what? This is going to be so... I'm like scared for when you ask me that question about like ranking the couples like later on, because it's going to like stress me.
I know. We'll talk it through because I've like really given it some thought. So don't worry about it.
Good. Okay, good. So George, King George, I love him. I love him. I didn't like, okay, sorry. From the first episode, I liked him. Okay. Like I loved his look, which I know sounds shallow of me, but you know, I'm a shallow girl sometimes.
She is.
Yeah, I am. Don't even ask us about PETA and Gail. Like, I don't even, we should do an episode on that. But
we should.
Anyway, we'll get back.
We really should. In anticipation for Songs and Ballads.
Oh my God. Yes. Okay, but sorry. Back to George. I love everything about him. I like the way, I love his look. I think that him and Charlotte are like a beautiful couple. I think he's so misunderstood and broody, but in the ways in which we didn't expect. Like, I didn't know that man. I didn't know he was mad. Like, he's bad and mad. Like, he's both.
Slay trick.
Yeah, honestly, like, he is like the OG misunderstood. But sorry, like I just genuinely love this character, like to watch him like kind of transform into this like loving man, and though he like has this like struggle, he truly like tries with Charlotte, and he like a lot of communication is required, and Charlotte works hard on him, but like it's like, I don't know if it was like Corey's acting or what it was, but I just felt so much like in how he like delivered in his scenes. And I just liked how much depth his character had. And it was so nice because we've only seen or known King George in the Bridgerton series as like this aloof older man. And I won't lie to you, I just assumed, aside from the fact that it was an arranged marriage, I just assumed it was a loveless marriage. I didn't know there was all this. I didn't know. Like I think maybe just based on the show, because we were so distracted by like the series, like the Bridgerton series of the Bridgerton family, I don't think I knew like how much love was there. Maybe that one scene in the season two, when,
right?
Yeah, when that god awful wedding episode that we'll not speak of, but the scene where he kind of comes out of his room and he's looking for Charlotte, and she kind of has like this look in her eye, like there was love there, but you know, I didn't. Yeah, so it was just like really beautiful. I really like George. That man is fine, and also he is a man. When he was tending to his like garden, I was like, tend to mine, you know.
I want to be garden.
Yeah, like, you know, do that to me. Like I was like, I very much love that. But no, like again, like such a good character. I think while the writers, I think sometimes like fell short on some flaws and some things like in the show, I think they did not mess up with George. No, I thought he was great, and yeah, I just get giggly when I think about him. He's just so fun. Like he's just great, like a great character.
Okay, I feel like this was, I can't even speak.
He's perfect.
Like let me just go through the process of what I thought of George.
Okay. Yeah.
In episode 1, I was like, who is this man? I was like, did he fall from heaven? Because
he did.
I had never seen, I don't know, maybe I don't watch enough TV, but do men flirt like that on TV? Because I had never seen anybody so charming, like from the jump. Like I was like,
take notes, men. Take notes, gentlemen.
Because usually it takes me a while to, like, I will fall in love deep with my like male love interests or male characters. Like I will be ride or die, like a la Anthony. Like I'm his number one supporter. But
you love him.
Oh yeah, he's my favorite character. We'll talk about that.
Yeah, and love him.
So but you know, we hated Anthony, so it's like, you know,
true, yeah,
we hated him, and then we came to love him like through slowly. How was I in love with George from the first scene he was with Charlotte? Like I was like, what's going on? What is going on? This was
and it was the way he was like just conversing with her without like she's just like being like, yeah, I'm trying to escape, and he's like, oh, I see. Like, it's just the way. It's just so charming.
The way he went. Oh. Nobody told me you would be this beautiful. You might be too. I was like, gag. Yeah. I was like, please, sir, where did you get? And I'm like, where do you get that? Where do you get that? You know, I don't like to use this word, but this man has riz. He has so much riz.
Yeah, he has riz. He does.
So much riz. It's actually off the chains. It's a weapon. He needs to register with the armed forces of riz.
It's always the crazy ones, you know. Like,
it is. It'd be
the mad ones.
It's so bad. And then when he freaked out at the end of episode 1, I was like, huh? And I was like, please don't. I was like, Shonda, please don't ruin this man for me, because I was like, I just fell in love.
She tends to do that,
and I was really scared. And I was like, I don't know what they're gonna do, like, because I knew there was love in their marriage. I did, and I knew it was a love story, but I was starting to think like. I was shocked to see how early they had fallen in love with each other, at least, or like liked each other. Like I thought they were gonna not like each other in their marriage, and then they were gonna learn to like each other because of like the hardships, like on some like almost like you and me against the world. So like we fall in love because of that. Like I thought it was gonna be more of a, I don't know, like a triumph story. I didn't really think it would be like so love. I get what you're saying. Like I also didn't think it was going to be such a love story, but it was 100% a love story, romantic. The shock I had in episode 4 to see how much, how far along he was, that shook me. I always talk about that twist. That was my favorite thing about the show was the twist, because if you know me, I am a guy falls first girly through and through.
Yeah. 100%.
I think they should do that.
Yeah.
all the time, every time. And some people are like, oh yeah, girl falls first, but he falls hard. I don't care. I'm sorry. He needs to fall first and he needs to fall hard as well. Like both. ¿Por qué no los dos? So I'm always on some, my mans needs to fall in love first. And I thought we weren't going to get that with this series because I was like, oh, he charmed her with his riz, but like really he's just doing what he needs to do. And he may like her, like he finds her attractive and all that like basic stuff. But I was like, it's giving she's more into him than he's into her. Like that's what I was really thinking because she like she was like, oh George, like you're the only person I know. Like I want to spend time with you. And he's like, get out of here, girl. And I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can do this. And then
it's tough.
And then episode 4 came.
Yeah.
And they gagged me.
Yeah.
They gagged me.
I know.
They said, not only am I in love with this girl, I am so in love that I think I am unworthy, that I'm going to go succumb myself to torture.
Oh, gosh.
And I'm going to try to push her away because I think she deserves so much better because she's... the way he said her perfection is only mirrored by my deformity. George.
George, please.
George.
I'm melting. Yeah.
When Reynolds is like, you have too much ice in your head, and he's like, it's my only chance to be with her.
Oh, I know. The scene, like, I won't even say, it's like not even my favorite quote of like the show or anything, but you know the scene where she's like, I will stand with you between the heaven and the earth. Do you love me? And he's like, I love you. And he like yells. I was like, oh my God, that scene like gave me like so much chills. Like I loved that moment. And yeah, you're right. He like loves her. Like he sees himself as like her. Yeah,
they love each other. We will talk about Charlotte in a second, but he loves. He loves like the way he was in episode 4. It was just him hyping her up. Like he was like to the Dr. Dusty Monroe. We have to talk about him for a second. When Dr. Monroe was like, you're losing yourself, and he's like, shut up, man. And he was like, my wife is the best thing that's ever happened to me. He's like, she is cray-cray. She will cause scandal. And she's the most royal person I've ever known. I was like, not only are you in love with her, you think she's beautiful, you admire her as well.
That's what I love to hear, you know, like it's not just like a lust, right? It's like he actually is like, she is loyal to me and she said she would be. And that's beautiful.
And it's just like, oh God.
He's just perfect. Good job, Shonda. Like I'm mad at you about everything else, but that's fine. You did great with Charlotte.
Off the chains. Like Shonda, rest because that was too intense. Okay, now onto the like more sad mental health piece / like Dr. Monroe piece.
Yes.
You can start because I've been talking.
Oh, Dr. Monroe. I hate him. Like I feel sorry. Just like, did you call him Dusty Monroe earlier?
Dusty Dr. Monroe. You know I love an alliteration.
I know you do. That he's like actually the worst. I'm not even sure he's qualified to be a doctor. Like what?
I'll simply just talk to him. Where was the talking?
Like shut it. Like I just can't. This is going to be pretty brief with me. I didn't like him. I was kind of scared. He kind of scared me. I don't know. I was getting scary. Like, right? He's just a scary man.
Every time he was shaving his face, I was like, oh, get that away from me. Oh, God.
Yeah, I was like, no, exactly. Like, it was kind of like bordering on thriller, like vibes. Like, I remember you were, I think, an episode or 2 ahead of me when we started the show. Right. And I remember you being like, oh, girl, just wait till we get to like that episode. I think it was like episode 4, right? Where you really see the torture this man goes through. And then that episode was just like tough alone, just because you're like, oh my God, like this poor man. You kind of figure something's wrong. Like there's an issue. Yeah. This man is like disturbing. And the fact that like he was able to like kind of get away with like this like treatment, like the advanced treatment. And then when Charlotte finds out about it, like it's just so terrifying. And it kind of like leads us back to like, you know, Princess Augusta and like what she was okay with happening to her son. Right. Which is why like when people say, I did it out of love, that is like very toxic. And like why I'm like, don't know. Like I do believe she loved her son, but also like, you know, coming back to that, like, did you though? Or do you love what he will do for you? Right. yeah, so in my opinion, Dusty Dr. Monroe is scary. And I think that's just mostly it. I think he just terrified me. And I felt really bad for George that he had to like endure that, and kind of thought that was all he was like kind of worthy of getting for his treatment, because he's so like, he's gone mad. Everyone made him feel like you're like this crazy person we have to like lock away and like hide. And he started to believe that.
He did.
So yeah. So I would like to see some credentials for Dr. Monroe. The man just scared me, Anne. Like, I don't know. You tell me, what did you think?
My Georgie baby girl is a victim. A victim
yes.
of Dr. Dusty Dr. Monroe. Okay? He took advantage of someone who was helpless, who didn't have any other options, who was at his last wits and ends. Because George was like, mother presented me with the most beautiful woman I've ever seen, so I need to fix up. And you told me you can help me out. And you said you can talk to me. But is giving abuse. He was, and he was a manipulator and an abuser. Yeah. Because he was like, George, every time you have an episode, it's because you've not been sitting in my chair. How does that make sense? Because, when he sits in his in the chair, he's probably not having an episode because he's strapped to a chair and you're torturing him. So he's probably too busy thinking about the pain. So are you going to constantly keep him in pain as he walks through life so he doesn't have an episode?
Yeah.
Is that the logic you're going with? Because that makes no sense. It makes no sense at all. Not even a little bit. So I was like, you're a dummy. You're a dummy. Number one, that. Two, I 100% think he oh my goodness, English. He purposefully said to George, Charlotte's pregnant, so that he could have an episode. Because I don't think the doctor, he dumb, but he not that dumb. He knows. He knows. Because when George came back, did you see the smirk on his face? He said, Your Majesty.
Oh, yeah.
And he said it too. He's like, oh, because basically what he's doing as an abuser is, Dr. Monroe isn't wrong about George needing help, right? Like, obviously we know he needs help with his mental issues, but he's just not admitting that he doesn't have the tools to do that. No one in that generation has the tools to do that because they don't have the research. But that's the abuser part. He's placing himself as the cure. And he's saying that my cure is the cure. That's a fact. And every time that you overstep or that you mess up, it's because you didn't listen to me. And he knows that George is inevitably going to have another episode. That's just how life works. And he knows to tell him, every time you have an episode, it's because you're not listening to me. So the next time you have one, which it's kind of like being like, I don't know why I think of that, but it's like the episode of Avatar: The Last Airbender. Don't ask me why this is obscure thing, where they go see the fortune teller, and then Sokka's like Mr. Skeptic, and he's like, I bet you, the fortune teller told you to wear those shoes, and then the guy goes, well, yeah, she said that I would meet the love of my life in these shoes. And then he said, oh, well, how often have you been wearing them? And he's like, well, every day. And then Sokka's like, well, then of course it's going to happen. Right. Which is like, that's Dr. Monroe. He's just like, one day you will have an episode. And when you do, it'll be because you didn't listen to me.
Right.
I could have said, oh, you're going to have an episode and it's because the sun is too hot that day. And it would have been the same.
Yeah.
You little abuser,
like
manipulator.
The classic, manipulating, like the classic of like, you can't do anything without me.
Exactly.
So don't even try to get rid of me.
Exactly, making him dependent. Yeah. And the idea where he was like, oh, I don't like this dusty cellar, like that you've put me in. It's made your treatments harder. I don't like the color in your eyes. I'm like, man's is manipulating you to get a better suite, is what he's saying. He wants upgraded quarters. He wants the sunlight. He wants penthouse suite. That's what he said. Yeah. He said pimp suite for me and my henchmen. That's what he said. I cannot deal with him.
Yeah, awful.
Okay.
But George, we love him.
George.
So we just want to end on that.
Yeah,
we love that beautiful note. We love George.
George is beautiful, man. Beautiful. Man.
Yes.
And speaking of beautiful, let us talk about Charlotte.
The queen.
the namesake of this show.
Yeah.
How do we feel?
Oh my gosh. And like, you know how I feel. I like love young Queen Charlotte.
Oh my God.
Okay. Like, she is the GOAT. I wrote that down in my notes. Like, just the GOAT. I wrote like a well-crafted icon,
Ooh.
elegant, strong, direct, loving.
Oh, that's way better than my notes. Mine says,
no, that's okay.
Queen. And then
Queen.
And then India Armatifio with a heart next to it. That's all I have.
Yeah, we love her. I love her.
Her.
Everything about her. Like,
I love
she
her.
She is her character.
She
in just like you know what I mean?
She is an icon. She's beautiful. She's amazing. She is the moment. I don't know.
Yeah. I just like you're right. Like, she is the moment. Like, if you actually like, I mean, for folks listening in, Anne and I have like spiraled and gone to listen to every interview ever possible between India and Corey, or even just of them solo. And I just like love her. Like, there's just something about her. Like, it's like you want to be her friend.
Yeah.
You want her opinion on things in your life.
Yes.
And you just want to kind of like vibe with her.
If a man proposed to me today, and India walked in the street, I would be like, India, what do you think? And I would say, I would do whatever she says. I would.
Yeah.
I would.
Yeah.
I would.
For sure. She says, leave him. Okay.
She says, leave
whatever.
him. It doesn't matter. We could have been together for 10 years, but I'd be like, India said no. So
yeah.
That's
exactly.
unfortunate for you, sir. Yeah.
Exactly. But okay, sorry. Young Queen Charlotte. Sorry. We get sidetracked. This is why we need like Alex or Monica here. Oh. I really liked Queen Charlotte a lot. I just like, I'm trying to like get my words in order to be like, okay, she is iconic. The way she like tries to play the game without really understanding what the game is, the way she learns to understand George and then comes to love him is like an amazing part of her story. But it's also the fact of how strong she is in the circumstance that she is placed in, and the way she tries to navigate it. I wouldn't describe her as a manipulator the way I would maybe like see the way people have manipulated her. And maybe that changes like the older she gets. But I think initially, like, truly she is confused. That's how, but she's like a problem solver. Right. That's how she seems to be. She's so matter of fact that she's like, nothing makes sense. Like, none of this makes sense. So I'm going to try to figure this out, and everyone's going to stay out of my way, and I'm going to do this. And I think that's why I like her so much, is that her like constitution is strong in herself, even though she's like playing a game or a part of a world that isn't meant for her or is her, if that makes sense, or was told it wasn't meant for her, I should say. Right. Clearly it is. Like, she's an excellent like leader in Queen Charlotte, like the spin-off series. Like I think the young Queen Charlotte like makes an excellent leader and has so much potential. So that's why I think she's like a well-crafted icon, and I think India did a good job like putting that spin. I think it's interesting, like she had traits of like her older self that we've like come to know, which I think that was intentional between the characters, like I'm sure, like so that we could see a glimpse of the older Charlotte. But yeah, Queen Charlotte had her like soft and loving moments, which I thought was really cool. But I really appreciated that she was essentially like a ruler, like, and we were rooting for her. I was rooting for her the whole time. So like, and her story with George, like we know we talked about this with George, but like everything that she admits to and like opens her heart to as well was amazing, because she's a strong, independent woman. She is. And so I kind of liked seeing like George as her match, like in every sense of the way.
No, it's I echo everything you said. I love her. My favorite thing about Charlotte, there's many things obviously, but one of my favorite things about her, aside from her sense of humor, I think it's 10 out of 10, I love how intelligent she is. I feel like there's a lot of main characters who I can be like, they're strong. I feel like that's really a strong woman is usually characterized by like their strength, their like emotional strength, or like Lady D, I'd say, has some emotional strength, is like tenacity, and she has like perseverance. But Charlotte is just brilliant. Like, she is just incredibly observant. She takes information in. If you realize how many times people in this show tell her she's doing something wrong and you need to do it this way, and she still manages to take in that information and make it her own. Like, Lady D tells her, you need to secure your position, because if you don't, like, our whole society's finna collapse. And Lady D is saying it in a way as in like, just get him to sleep with you till you can get a baby. Like, that's all we need. Like, we don't really, or like, we need you to show up to these events because we need to be integrated as a society. And Lady D is taking it from her perspective of like a loveless marriage of like, this is just about how things get done. Like, she flatters her husband to get things out of him, you know?
Yeah.
Or to like have peace, honestly. It's not even to get stuff out of him. It's just so he leaves her alone, which is like sad. Yeah. But in not India. Oh my gosh, I need to stop doing that. But Queen Charlotte here's Lady Danbury's like, your walls are too high. But and she could have just gone to George and been like, can we go to this thing? But she decides to talk to him and be like, you know, like, I want to be with you, or like, you're a person to me. I feel like we're pretty lonely people, so if we like cling to each other, we can do a lot together. And I think her taking in the information but deciding to make it her own and be like, what I want is to have a relationship with this man, and I also want to be able to help the people in my society who look like me.
Yes.
And then she does that. Same with Princess Augusta, who's like, he needs to speak to Parliament, and she's like, okay. She takes that information and she does it softly. She's like, you're gonna be great, you're gonna do great. And that doesn't even work out. It doesn't work out. Like, she learns that that's not enough. And then she has to take another step forward and do another thing. But I just love how, like you said she's a problem solver. That's definitely it. Problem solver, super intelligent. She takes information. She's never too stubborn, at least young Charlotte, to hear information, process it, and then move accordingly. And I think that's just, I don't know what that is in a character. I don't, like, strength, I guess, but it's just like another, I don't know what the word is, but a characteristic that she has that I feel like I don't see as much in other characters. And I think that's what makes her so iconic to me, I think. Because I'm just like, wow.
Yeah, I agree. And like, she is so intelligent. I think it's like resilience. Like, she's kind of like learning from the circumstance now that she's in. Yeah. Of like, okay, so I need to learn how to do this. Okay, fine. I'm going to do that. Right. Oh, I didn't do that the way you wanted me to. Okay, I'll do it like this. Like, it's like, she's like pleasing but not pleasing. And I think that eventually makes you, it's kind of like classic, like, you start a job, you're going to learn how to do it until you do it right. And then you could do it like clockwork. And then eventually you're like, I can like move up or something like that.
Exactly. So, like, she, and she was thrown so many curveballs because every time she would learn something would come back, like, to bite her. Yeah. Like, George, she's like, okay, I'm gonna decide to stay with him and not climb this wall because this man is fine and he seems to like me, kind of. So she's like, okay, let me give this a chance and, like, you know, not have my country go to war. And then he like switches up on her and she's like, what? And then the entire plot of the second episode is people, kind of, no offense, convincing her that she's crazy because George won't sleep with her. Like, I don't think people are cocking that. People are like, you need to get him to do that. Like, you're a woman. Why would he want to be with you, like, sexually? And she doesn't even understand what it is in the first place. So, like, imagine how in the dark and how terrible for your self-esteem that must be to think, you know, like, I can't even do what most people in the world are able to achieve. So then she's thrown that curveball, and then she's like, oh wait, he's like actually really sweet with me, and we have this beautiful first love scene. And then he is talking to his mama, and he's like, yeah, I betted her or whatever. And then and then she finally comes to terms. She's like, you know what, despite the fact that he may not, because I think that's what she thinks in episode 3, that he's not like in love with her, but he's like, she's like, whatever, despite that you're not in love with me, like, we can still have a partnership, like, that's what I want. And then he has his, like, worst episode ever, literally shortly after that. It's like, girl can't catch a break, man. She cannot catch a break. And then she finds out she's preggers. It's just like, she one thing after another. One thing, boom, boom, punch in the face, repeat. I can't. Charlotte, the woman you are. Because I could never. She like, that is strength as well, resilience, strength, persistence. Just I love Charlotte so much. Like, it,
and I really like what you said, especially when we're talking about like Lady Danbury, her storyline, like the survival piece of it. Like, I kind of like the idea of like each character, each like, I guess like female lead that we're supposed to like really like, that we've grown to like love, like Violet, Agatha, and Charlotte. Like the way we're like see their strength like play out in different ways. So like it could be through like the traumas that, yes, I agree with you, that shouldn't have been brushed over, that that Lady Danbury went through with her husband. Like you're totally right. That shouldn't have been brushed over like that. No. I think that could have been like a really deep storyline. But I don't know how deep they wanted to go with that. Maybe they didn't realize like that what they did would actually like cause such a ruckus in how we see it. So like, which is problematic. Which is
so problematic because it's like how could you think that, especially when you showed it to us so many times as well? Like, if you showed it one time and then you were shocked that people were so like irked by it, then like I could see like, oh, you misstepped, but like you think like it's fine. But for half of the episodes, we are seeing a scene every single episode, if not multiple.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah. It's tough, but I think like that's where I think Charlotte and Lady Danbury have that survival piece in common, just in different ways, and
they do.
So I think that's really interesting. Violet,
I think like, and I think it also talks to their upbringing or speaks to their upbringing, as in like Lady Danbury was promised when she was 3 years old, so like her survival instincts are very like already kicked into gear. Like they're just what they need to be, and there's no like love part. She even mentioned she didn't know her parents as well, so there's no loving. But I could see that, even though Adolphus be kind of a doofus sometimes, I think he does have love for Charlotte, and I think she did grow in an environment. I wish that they did explore that a little bit more, like just a little tiny bit more, like telling us how she grew up, because we saw that she was orphaned at an early age is what we're seeing, and then her brother like raised her, and he let her do a lot of stuff because I guess like he's her brother, so he's pretty relaxed. Like he let her read too much, allegedly. So I wish we got a little bit more of that to see like why because Charlotte is really loving. I feel like that's or young Charlotte is very loving, and I would have liked to have seen like how she grew up a little bit, to see where she got that loving instinct from, because it's like clearly really embedded in her. Yeah,
that would have been a further flashback if they had like an even younger Charlotte, like age 7, and then we go to age 17 or something. I think because they've done it before with characters, like take us real far back to when they're like to their childhood. So that could have been like a really cool like story to explore. And I agree, like how Adolphus kind of like not raised her, but like maybe like how they interacted and how the relationship is. But overall though, I think young Queen Charlotte was just brilliant. Like she's just brilliant. Brilliant, resilient, perfect.
And so beautiful. Oh my goodness. The looks.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Slay queen.
Stunning.
Slay. I love this actually came today. We're recording it on the day that the Emmy nominations have come out, and they did get nominated for I still think they got snubbed, but whatever. They got nominated for best like costume and period piece, best like outstanding voiceover for Julie Andrews, and outstanding hair costume as well. And I think if they don't get the hair one, you're actually crazy. You're actually wild bucking, because no period piece has done hair like that for her. No.
It's what Charlotte is known for, has become known for from
literally
like season 1.
They have a nest in her head. Please don't play with me. Give that Emmy.
And like literally in interviews, India says her head like would hurt afterwards. So give that girl an award.
Give it.
And
so
an Advil.
Do it.
Oh my goodness.
Goodness.
Oh, that's amazing. No, I hope.
I hope they get it.
I do too. The costumes were beautiful. I can't wait to tell you about one of my favorite scenes and what she was wearing.
Ooh, I'm excited for that. For sure.
The wardrobe, fantastic wardrobe.
Okay, before we like get into our favorite stuff, like our highlights, let us talk a little bit more about George and Charlotte as a couple, because we didn't really talk about that.
Of course.